Hey there, welcome to Prog Monster, a site dedicated to rock music genre. Anyways, my name is Murph and I am the host of this show. And today we're doing the 11th episode in a series that I call Rock and Roll Greats That Thrilled Us But Have Since Passed On. I wanted to give some kind of love to these musicians who contributed largely to what we call the rock music genre, which is my passion. Today we're doing legendary blues, Delta blues, and rock and roll influencer Arthur Crudop. And then we're going to do legendary female vocalist extraordinaire, if you ask me, Cass Elliot. I generally do them chronologically upon how they passed on, who passed on first, and then who passed on second. So we'll be starting with Arthur today. Arthur is passed on, of course, now, but one of the great rhythm. I keep wanting to say rhythm and blues, but he's just a great blues, Delta blues artist who performed some of the earlier rock songs and should be given credit for being one of the founding people for this genre. The reason I like doing this is because you learn so much about these people and their impact on the music. Arthur had pretty substantial impact, if you ask me. But first, before we go on, we'll just give you the vitals about him. He was born on August the 24th, 1905 in Forest, Mississippi. And he died March 29th, 1974 at the age of 68 in Nassauwattux. I'm sure I'm saying this, I'll say it again. Nassauwattux, Virginia, in the U.S., of course. Of course, we already said his music was blues, Delta blues, and rhythm and blues. Not rhythm and blues, rock and roll. I like this rhythm and blues thing. I don't know why I always say it. He was an instrument. His instruments were guitar and vocals. Pretty much, that's what he did. He was active from 1939 to 1973. So basically what we're going to talk about now, I'm just placing that out of the way so I can see my notes about him. He was a rhythm and blues, started out in 1939. He first joined a harmonizing four, which they did, was the first group he did, and they were a blues band pretty much. Then after that, he went pretty much solo for a while, living in Chicago and working as a street singer. You see these people around all the time. And, he'd been doing that for a bit when he was signed to a record label to play with Elmo, James, and others. He did played with them, doing different things. When the guy found him to sign him, he was living in a crate, pretty much. But realized how good this guy was. And, he released quite a few songs and played them on the black circuit, like the black music circuit, so to speak. Many of his songs, of course, were later recorded by white rock stars, superstars like Elvis Presley, Rod Stewart, Elton John, and other artists who loved his music. The big song for him was probably "That's All Right, Mama," which of course we all know as an Elvis song, but he did the original version of it, and Elvis took it on. And the sad part about all this is that all this music that he produced and writ, he never really got any kind of royalties for. He fought for them in the 60s, and he was about to get a credit for about $60,000 for his royalties were supposed to be paid, but at the last minute the record label decided not to sign that and told him to take your chances in court, I guess they figured that he wasn't going to get any more than that, so why give him it at all? Let him fight for it. If he gets it, gets it. That's the way they thought. So it was a business arrangement, but if you ask me, it was, pretty much exploitation. That's what it was. His last performance was with Bonnie Raitt, That's the one that's his last actual performance out there with Bonnie Raitt. And then he died of complications that stemmed from heart disease and heart disease and diabetes. That's what I was trying to say. Anyway, so he was a notable rock, influential to rock. I mean, he obviously influenced Elvis Presley, and who more influenced rock than Elvis Presley? I'm not sure who, but I don't think there's very many. And Elvis actually used 3 of his songs to further his own career. But Elvis Presley always gave him credit for the music, like saying that he used to love go see him play and stuff. So there you have it. Arthur Crudop should have been much bigger and well known than he is, but that's the way it was early on in the rock scene. Record labels just tried to exploit people like this and their music, and and unfortunately some of these people never really get any kind of monetary compensation for the stuff they did, and he actually died having not gotten that. And I'm not even sure that he got any of it, or his family got any of it later today. Maybe he did, maybe they didn't. I'm not sure. I didn't see anything to indicate that he did. So anyways, there you have it. Arthur Crudop, rock legend who thrilled us and gave us a lot of music that eventually led to other artists make even greater music and adding to our genre here. So anyways, now we're going to go on to Cass Elliot, known professionally originally as Mama Cass, with the Mamas and the Papas, but obviously had tremendous talent. But again, another person who didn't get as much credit as they deserved. And in her case, it had to do with her weight and her size, which is unfortunate. But, people often judge the book by the cover. And in her case, the cover might not have been too spectacular in some people's opinion. But obviously the read was well worth it, So having used that analogy, I'm going to talk a bit about Cass Elliot, a person who I've long listened to and liked, but never really knew much about. And having to do these videos has made me research a lot more about her. Actually had a bit of tears in my eyes because of some of the stuff that she went through, but I've come to respect her and think of her as a great individual outside of her music altogether. I think she was just a very positive, kind of loving, caring person to be around, like well liked. She had lots of friends, and I just think that she just passed too quickly and never really, she was just getting to be this iconic figure, and she's an iconic figure anyways, but she never got to really experience the kind of joy that she created for people, I think. Anyways, we'll tell her vital stuff first. Cass Elliot, or Mama Cass if you prefer, was born Ellen Naomi Cohen. She was born September the 19th, 1941 in Baltimore, Maryland, of course, and died July the 29th, 1974 at the age of 32. Can you believe it? So young. At Mayfair in London, England, of a heart attack, basically. The music she was into was folk, rock, and pop. Now, these are 3 genres of music that I have a general interest in, but aren't specific. Like, I'm not specifically drawn to this particular type of genre of music. I have people who I like in that genre, but I don't listen to them as much as I would my other stuff. But she is quite simply an extraordinary vocalist. That was her instrument of choice, of course. Her vocals were her strength, right? And musically, anyways. Years she was active from 1959 to 1974. She does have one kind of famous sister, and that's Leah Kunkel, who also released a couple of albums of her own and had a voice as well and could sing. All this, of course, encouraged by Cass, like helped her quite a bit to get that going. This girl also took care of Cass's daughter after Cass passed on. She was known primarily as a member of the Mamas and Papas, but also did sing with other folk bands, and I'll get into that when I do her biography, I guess is what this is kind of going to be like a bit for her. So we're going to talk now about Cass's achievements. Okay, first of all, I want to say that this has been the one person I've done so far that I've actually felt kind of moved by, almost to tears on a couple times because of her situations and the type of person she was. She was a caring person, and I just think that she had one of those voices that, comes along in a generation that just really stands out. I don't know that the rock music era, the rock music genre was really where she should have been or could have been more. I think she was definitely a stage performing type of, belongs at Las Vegas theater. Like, she had a voice kind of reminiscent to me of Judy Garland. I think there's a lot of similarities here in their voice, but her voice, I think, was even greater than even Judy Garland, who I consider to be one of the great female vocalists of all time. Anyways, just going to start with a little bit of her story. First of all, she did, like I did say, she had a sister, Leah Kunkel, who also did a few albums and stuff too. And so that's part of her story. The first band that she actually belonged to was a band called the Big Three with Tim Rose, and there was another gentleman, and then he was replaced by Jim Hendrix. And I want to make it clear here, we're not talking about Jimi Hendrix or James Marshall Hendrix. We're talking about Jim Hendrix with a CKS at the end. Totally different person. So I want to make that clear so people don't get confused. After she performed with this band for a while, and they were quite good. They were doing the circuit, the pop and folk circuit, and they sounded pretty good. I listened to a couple of those things. Then she moved on to, the band broke up, so she was kind of doing some solo stuff. However, what happened after that was that she and Hendrix, ended up getting married because at that time he was drafted by going to be drafted by the U.S. to go to Vietnam, and the only way to get around it was if he was married, and so he married Cass Elliot. It was a platonic arrangement. It lasted for about 5 years, and then they had an annulment. But it was basically to help him get out of the Vietnam War. And can't really blame the guy, but some people might view this in a poor light. So I'm not going to go on about it too much, other than say that happened. But her and Hendrix, they then met up with two other people, two Canadians who were singers as well, doing their own thing, and they teamed up together, and that was Zal Yanofsky and Denny Doherty, both Canadians, and they formed a group called the Mugwumps. And they sang, it lasted maybe about 8 months or so, and then they kind of folded, and Yanofsky went on to help form the Loving Spoonful, which is another band, a fairly known band. And Doherty joined up with John and Michelle Phillips and was part of a band. And eventually Doherty convinced John Phillips to allow Cass Elliot to join the band. And, at first he was resistant to this, saying basically that her vocal range wasn't what he wanted. Yeah, what a joke, eh? To me, that's a bit of a joke. Her vocal range was greater than the three of them put together. I mean, not that they couldn't sing. I think Doherty had a good voice. I think Michelle Phillips had a good voice. I'm not so sure about John Phillips. He was more of a musical arranger and guitar player than he was a vocalist, in my opinion. But Cass Elliot, for him to say that he didn't want to come out and say it, but his real feelings was that she was basically too large and didn't really fit into the type of the 1960s type of what a female should look like in her mini skirts and free love and all that stuff. So I think he had an issue with that, and they came up with that copper pipe story about how she was performing in a club and a copper pipe fell and hit her in the head, and all of a sudden she had 3 ranges higher than she did before, and she never had that before. Sounds like a story to me. And Michelle Phillips said the same thing. It's a bit of a story that basically he just had a problem with her size, and once he got over that and allowed her to come into the band, that's when they changed. They went from a penniless, poor, living at people's houses type of band to producing albums and hits, Monday, and they've got quite a few hits, I think. And so once she joined, eventually that's what happened. They became a kind of pop folk iconic group, harmonizing being their best suited thing. And she was, to me, the key to all this because she had such a voice. Basically after a while it became apparent to them that she was the star of the show, and she could, once the world got a view of her singing and stuff like that she didn't need the mamas and papas anymore. But the band kind of broke up because of differences. I think there was a bit of a headbutting between John Phillips and Cass Elliot over what they were going to do and what they weren't going to do. She was very charismatic and the front person, I think, in a lot of ways. She worked the crowd. The crowd loved her. John was more the control guy who made the music and stuff, and they just didn't see eye to eye. I think there was maybe some professional jealousy on his part. That's my feeling about it. Maybe it is, or maybe it isn't true. Anyways, the band eventually broke up, and she went solo. I think she produced 5 albums in her solo career, all of them featuring her vocals, which is really what you needed to feature. And so she did very well. And then she had an opportunity to sing a bit of an extended stay at the Palladium in London, and she was thrilled to do this. She didn't do very well at first because of her voice. She had a problem with her voice, and she had running a high fever. She was sick, so she kind of didn't get the best of reviews. But after she did her first 2 full performances there and got standing ovations, it really, really touched her a lot. She went as far as she phoned Michelle Phillips the night before her death to tell her how she got a standing ovation, how excited she was, and then the next day, while she was asleep that night, she had a heart attack and died. And of course, she was a rock star, right? So the music tabloids and all that got a hold of this, wanted to try and create a drug thing or whatever, that she died from this or that, and really just died of a heart attack, just natural causes. Was she doing drugs? Yeah, probably. Was there any musicians in the 60s that weren't doing drugs? People say, oh, how could they do this drug and how could they do that drug? But the truth of the matter was that these drugs were all fairly new. Nobody knew a lot about them. Not what they do today. And everybody was using them. It was just, that's the way it was, right? So the fact that a lot of them died from this kind of stuff isn't surprising, because not a lot was known about it. But I think hers was just a heart failure at the age of 32. Unfortunately, that's the way sometimes it goes. Bit of a sad ending for a great musician. However, the one good part is that she got those standing ovations, and that made her happy. So I think Michelle Phillips was right. I think that she died happy. And, I don't know what more you can ask for at the end than that, right? So, what making this video has done for me is it's made me I listen to quite a bit of her music. That's why this video is being released somewhat late today. I decided I didn't want to do this at night. I think I do better on videos during the day. Sometimes at night, after working all day, I'm kind of tired and things don't stick in my brain as well, or I forget what I'm doing, and I don't really want to do that. So I decided that I would try to do more of the videos for the daytime and much more alert, and I just enjoy doing them more, and the video quality I think is better as well. So, but I spent up quite a bit of time this morning looking over these two, and especially Cass, and I discovered that I like her vocals enough that now I may be actually looking for some of her stuff to listen to, and that is what I started this thing. Not just this series of videos, but this Prog Monster thing. I did this basically because I knew that it would get me into listening to more music and stuff that I perhaps had put off, and for whatever reason, this kind of forces me to do it now, and learned a lot here so far. And this is, like I said, one of the main reasons I'm doing this is to learn about new music so that I have new stuff to listen to. And I think that I will be listening to more Cass Elliot anyways, and maybe more of the Mamas and Papas as well. So anyways, there you have it. Episode 11 of Rock Stars who thrilled us but since passed on. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and if you have, please like and subscribe. Another episode coming on Tuesday, episode 12. Another interesting search for me. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and we will see you very soon. Prog Monster out. Have a great day.